WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are about to enter what many folks here in the land of pleasant living, especially those named Aparicio, would call the best time of the year. It's baseball season, opening day around the corner. I got my Camden Yards and my dreams of fields of orange and postseason baseball that will not be happening this year, but we are going to celebrate some baseball here. Mike Gibbons joins me. Mike and I have been friends since my childhood. I don't. How long have you been at the Babe Ruth? Were you there when Harmon Killebrew signed my baseball in 1973 when my pop brought me down there? Or no?
No. I showed up at the museum in 1981 as a volunteer, and over the course of the next year, got heavily involved with them and went to the Orioles and got them to allow us to represent them. So we are the Orioles Museum, but it's been a long ride, but not back to 73. No.
81. Well, hold on. You got 40, just not 48, is what you're telling me, right?
Yeah, that's right. 40.
The first time I went into the Babe Ruth Museum, I know I've told you this. My dad loved Harmon Killebrew, and Killebrew was signing autographs at the Babe Ruth Museum. My pop heard it on the radio, heard Chuck Thompson or Bill O'Donnell say it or whatever, and my dad we got on the bus. I'll never forget it. I met Harmon Killebrew. I still have the baseball that Harmon Killebrew signed for me, and the killer. And I guess all of these years later at Emory Street, I've had beer, I've had barbecue. I sat drunk on the stoop with Bernie Mickelson when they shut down Sports First back in 1985. So, I've had all these memories. Baseball is so important to me and fundamental to me. I learned a lot after Frank Robinson passed away 2 years ago. Luis is still alive. My dad passed away recently, a couple years ago as well. And, the whole baseball background, Venezuela, the story of how I wound up here, has all been led to baseball. I know why it's important to me. Why is it important to you all these years later?
My father was a huge fan, and I'm a little bit older than you, old enough that he took me to the Orioles' very first home opening game, 1954. I was 7 years old, and I recall, we go into the Memorial Stadium, walk up the ramp, and there I see the Field of Green, which, if you haven't been to a baseball park before, you don't know what that looks like.
No second level on the stadium in 54, right? Single bowl?
No, it was upper deck too.
They had upper deck then, okay.
Yeah, they had finished the upper deck. We were in the lower bowl on the first base side, and I was just struck with it. And so I watched the first game, and I see Clint Courtney hit the first home run at Memorial Stadium, and I was just taken. And my father
was it packed that day?
Yeah, it was the first game ever, so it was sold out, 48,000, I think.
I've seen the pictures of the parade when the team came.
He would not take me to the parade.
Okay.
He pulled me out of school at around noon, and off we went to the ballpark. But he took me to about 20 games a year until I didn't want to go with him anymore when I was around 14 or 15. But we went to really important games, the 58 All-Star game, the Wilhelm no-hitter, when Maris was chasing Ruth in the home run thing and got number.
Did you go to a lot of games, or did you go to like a handful a year, or a dozen?
We went to about 20 a year.
20. So you went to a lot of games, won a series. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so that was it. And baseball's been a really important part of my life. And, I have a son, and now it's important to him. And that's just kind of how it works. It worked with you, and it worked with me. So, but getting involved at the museum, I didn't see that coming. I did not grow up wishing to be a museum worker.
What was your life going to be? What were you going to do before you dedicated your life?
Well, I wanted to be a musician, and I was not good enough to be a musician full time. So then I worked. I branched off and got a degree and I became a writer and started producing documentaries. And I was doing a documentary on Babe Ruth, which led me to go to the museum to do research. I became a volunteer, and the rest is history.
Dude, I'm doing the math on all this. You were like 14 when the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan, and you got a guitar. Is that like
that? Well, yeah. My grandfather was a big band leader in Baltimore, and he turned me on to pop music. And this is in the late 50s. So the
See, my
Kingston Trio.
grandfather was in a band and hated pop music. My grandfather was a bugle player. My grandfather played the bugle at the Preakness a couple times in the late 50s, and
No
he
way.
hated. Like he was a
Ah,
Glenn Miller, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like love Sinatra and like that, you know what I mean? Like Nelson Riddle. My grandfather wanted to be in the Lawrence Welk Orchestra, you know what I
I
mean?
got you. Yeah.
But like had no use for like anything long haired.
No, well, I can dig it. So anyway, but yeah, so I grew up through folk music, and then
Okay.
the Beatles hit, and everything
So
changed.
you were more Dylan-y and like that, or
Kingston Trio, Peter, Paul, and Mary, Bob Dylan, Simon and
okay,
Garfunkel, that kind of stuff.
nice. All
Well,
right. Well, see, I'm learning about you 3 decades into our
I'll
relationship.
tell you. Well,
Mike Gibbons,
we
go ahead.
have, as we said before we went on into this broadcast, I have a band that started in 1964 and then stopped in 1980, and it resurrected about 5 years ago. And it's three guys, three-part harmony, acoustic music, and the following is stunning. And young people, they really enjoy it because they come up to us after a show and say, we really like that because in today's music, you don't hear three-part harmony for the most part. So
Is that
it's
what you
different.
play now, Peter Paul? You playing that music when you go out and
We
play?
play more like rock and roll kind of stuff, but like 60s and 70s music. So
What's
it's
the name of your outfit? I don't even know the band.
the Villagers. I grew up in Dickeyville. You ever heard of Dickeyville?
I've heard of Dick. I've had a friend that lived in Dickeyville.
There you
Absolutely.
go.
All
Yeah.
right. The
So
Villagers.
the band hatched in Dickeyville. We were the Villagers, and to much chagrin from the other band members, I decided let's keep the name. So we are the Villagers.
Well, if you've listened to this program over the last 30 years, Mike Gibbons is here from the Babe Ruth Museum. I'm literally reaching out, Mike. I mean, look, there's no hope in the baseball team right now, right? So, like, sitting here and talking about rebuilding and kids, I do that with Luke and whatever. Most people don't even know who is on the team. Most of us just trying to get a vaccine shot and maybe get to a ball game and have a beer out on a deck somewhere and just get reacquainted. They're going to lose 100 games. I get all of that. But then there is this, it's opening day, and how important baseball is. As I sit here, I got my Roberto Clemente cap, my 21 down here, right? And all that we've lost in baseball over the last year, I mean, Tommy Lasorda and Joe Morgan. We just go down the list, Hank Aaron, right? Like losing these iconic figures in baseball. It's been sort of reflective on top of everything else that's going on with the plague, that I didn't get to a baseball game last year. There were only 60 of them. No one could go. The industry's fractured. The game's different. But there's this part of it for me. It's been, the deepest part of my life. The reason I do all of this was because I fell in love with baseball as a kid.
Right. Well, and yeah, I feel the same way. And every day that I go down to the museum, and we pretty much we're working with 20,000 artifacts, and we need to take care of those artifacts. And so when the pandemic hit a year ago, we had to make the determination on how we were going to approach continuing to maintain and preserve the collection and the museum. And it just really came down to somebody's got to go in there every day. You have to go in. You just can't leave that stuff sitting alone. Louis Aparicio's jersey from the '66 World Series needs to be looked after. So that's we set ourselves out on that mission, and we do it. Typically, one guy or more are down there every day, all the way back to last March when we shut down the museum to the public. So, but we do it because we care about it. We're passionate about it, and but you're right. It has been such a unique year. I had not missed an opening day. I was in the Navy for 4 years. Aside from those 4 years, I've been to every Orioles opening day game until last year. And
I
then
think I had barbecue with you at half of them at your place next door.
Right. I mean, yeah, we've been doing the block party since 1991, and it really hurt not to be able to do that. This year, I don't. We're trying. We're going to try and do something, but every day is a crapshoot. You don't know what is in store for you. So we're trying.
Well, we have such a rich history in baseball here, right? And I know during this period of time, the Ken Burns thing has come back to me, and I've seen a little bit of that. And Luke and I have talked a little bit about the history of baseball. And every time we lose an icon, right, we talk about the history of baseball. Engaging for you with the museums and with all the gear, and I saw my Jim Palmer hotcakes picture recently, and been thinking a lot about Louis as you mentioned his jersey. I had the Heartland statue. The engagement part of still having some hope here in Baltimore for sort of a better day of baseball and getting more people down. The vaccine opening up a small space museum, right? Like, I mean, your place, social distancing's nice and all, but I've been down. It's a small little space. What's the future for the museum and for what you're trying to do over the arc of this year into next year?
So, as you know, we used to have a second museum called Sports Legends, and that housed the Orioles collection, the Colts, the Ravens, the Terps, agonizing last night. And, but effectively it was a state sports museum. And we were over at Camden Yards and really got into a bad dispute with the Maryland Stadium Authority, the landlord, over rent. And they wanted us to pay more than we could afford and more than we should have anyway. So we left there in November of 2015. The goal is to build a new Sports Legends museum, and we are in negotiation with a couple of entities, one in the city of Baltimore and another in one of the nearby counties, to build a new Sports Legends. Now, COVID has really put that on hold. We were in pretty good discussions about relocating, but we've got to wait a little bit longer because nobody really knows what the heck's going on, long term. So that's our goal, is to get that collection back out in front of the public so that Louis' jersey is not sitting in the archives, but it's on display to be enjoyed by you and others. So, that's what we're trying to do at the Babe Ruth birthplace. It's just trying to get back to some sense of normalcy. And we are open Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. About 20 people a day come down, and it's not much, but we need to be open. But as I mentioned to you before, virtual programming has made a big difference for us. The fact that you and I can sit here and look at each other and be viewed by others, it is really important. And we have done a series of virtual programs. We did one with John Miller was the moderator, and we had Brooks, Boog, and Palmer. And it was viewed by thousands of people and was a tremendous evening. And the beauty of it was Miller is in San Francisco, Cakes is in LA, Boog is in Florida, and Brooksy was here. So we didn't have to bring him anywhere. There you are, just like you and me. So I think that for your industry and for my industry, it may be a sign of the times to come that I don't think Zoom is going to go away, and it's a nice way to do programming.
Well, you know what? I'm going to give all thanks to Jackie McCusker from Nacho Mamas, who was our guest last week. And I wrote this down. She said, I'm trying to find the beauty in COVID, right? And that sounds, like trying to find what good has come from all of this. And I guess, through this, we're trying to find all of that as we get through the other end of this to say, what did we miss the most? And, and I've been very, very upfront with everybody. I don't miss baseball or football or basketball or hockey. I miss concerts. So to see that guitar behind you and know more about your music background, I said, I'll feel normal when I can take my long hair and stand on the lawn at Merriweather and have a proper 16-ounce locally brewed refreshment, and listen to something I want to hear, because I love music. And I think for all of us, we're all going to want to go back to something. I mean, and listen, I've had all the art museum directors on, all the theater folks on, the aquarium and the zoo and places people go. These are going to be the first things that people are going to want to do, in as well as restaurants and all of that, because walking in a park is something you could have done last year. Being on a beach. I was on a beach last year. I discovered, by the way, there's a beautiful pond in Patterson Park, Mike. If you didn't know that, you should take a walk and discover the city. But people are going to be looking to discover stuff. that's good for you, right? That's good for the Orioles. That's good for that's good for getting people out. Now, baseball and the Orioles need to do something to make it attractive for people to come back, and hopefully that's where Adley Rutschman comes in, right?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I'm pretty encouraged with the current regime's efforts to resurrect this proud franchise. And you hope that it happens sooner than later. But yeah, I think the Orioles have uh, some pretty good position players. And when the catcher comes up, it's going to make a big difference. It's all about pitching. We know that. And maybe some of the young guys that they've got coming along right now are going to make a difference and get this team competitive again. I read an article yesterday, I think, in the Washington Post about the Orioles and how long is this going to take before they could become competitive? But the big thing for our baseball team is that they're in the American League East, and that's rough. If a team was rebuilding in maybe any other division, it would be a lot easier. So we'll see how they go, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I like Brandon Hyde. I like the way that he interacts with his ball club, and hopefully this will pay off for us.
What's your favorite piece of memorabilia at the Babe Ruth Museum? What can I come down to the birthplace and see that's your favorite thing?
Um, when I first got involved with the museum and we became the Orioles Museum, there was one of my mentors was a guy by the name of Jim Brady, Bready, and he was an editorial writer for the Baltimore Sun. He also was Baltimore's preeminent baseball historian. He wrote the Home Team book and put it out year after year after year. So Brady came to me one day and said, I found a guy who lives up on 33rd Street, about 3 blocks from Memorial Stadium, and he is the grandson of a fella who was the Orioles mascot in 1895. And he says that he has his grandfather's uniform, mascot uniform. So I went to the house. Mr. Howell was his name, and his grandfather was little Harry Howell, and he had a photograph of Harry wearing the Baltimore Orioles 1895 uniform, and he gave it to us. So the pants are this big, and he's got a little bat about that long, and it's in really good condition. It's got the stocking, the leggings that are black with orange stripes, and the hat, and it says Baltimore on the jersey, and it's amazing. So I every time I see that thing, it just tickles me pink. But that's a favorite.
Well, you got to get down to Emory Street and check it out. Mike Gibbons here from Babe Ruth Birthplace Museum. Formerly sports legends, maybe soon to be sports legends again. We're certainly always pulling for you to be able to get Louis' jersey from '66 back out and properly put it out there along with the gold gloves and all the rest of that. All right, last question for you, and this is stock question in my James Lipton repertoire. I'm about to go on a crab cake assault. I am for the rest of my life. I've decided that people always ask me my favorite crab cakes. Now, Fadley's is right up the street. They're one of our sponsors. They ship all over the world. Costas, East Side, been with me for 20 years. Nick and Pete, they ship all over the world. And I say, so I always say, go to Costas, go to Fadley's. They're very different. They're like, well, which one do you like more? I'm like, well, they're different. One's sort of mustardy and one's sort of Old Bay-ish, and they're just different. And then you can have one broiled and have one fried, and some people have it on a sandwich, and some people don't like it on a sandwich. They think it should be served with fries or with crackers or whatever. So everyone has a different opinion. Everyone has a different favorite crab cake. Everyone can say, well, there's G&M or there's Pappas, the famous places, Coco's, whatever. I'm going to go to those places, but I'm always looking for maybe something a little offbeat or whatever. So I'm just going to throw it to you. I've given you a minute to think about it. If I'm a tourist and I'm coming to town right now and I'm saying, Mike, I'm Pete Rose, I'm somebody special, you're taking me out for a crab cake. Where are you taking? If Babe Ruth came back, where would you take him for a crab cake right now, Mike?
Well, so one good thing about the COVID is that I go to work 3 or 4 days a week, and I usually go down for from like 8:30 to 2 o'clock,
Okay.
and then I head home. And my wife and I do yoga every Tuesday. So and that's at 4:30. So we don't like to cook. You know, by the time we finish yoga, we're ready to eat, and we don't want to cook. So I stop and bring home crab cakes every Tuesday that we enjoy. And I'm sorry, but G&M is where I go.
G&M is your place. All right.
G&M
G&M is
is
your place.
off the chart, in my opinion. Just, I don't know how they do it, but they're large, chunky, and delicious. And we don't eat the bread; we just eat the the crab cake and the French fries. So, but it's really good. There is a
I've been to G&M one time in my life with my wife. We had landed at BWI. It was the time of the day, and I was hungry. My wife doesn't love crab cakes, right? Like my wife doesn't love crab, right? More so since her second transplant, believe it or not. Her taste buds have changed. You know, she eats stuff that she didn't used to eat before her transplant. Crab is becoming one of those things that she likes more. But over 18 years of our marriage, it has not been. You know, she goes to Costas and gets the ribs. You know, she does love the fish at Fadley's. Now, when I bring home, like I bring home a tilapia or I bring home, she's eaten hake lately, steak fish. So, but by and large, so I don't have a lot of experience in this, but I'm about to go on a rampage because I want to experience every crab cake. Because I've said to people, I've never really had a bad crab cake. You know what I mean? But they're all really different. Like G&M's, I remember is a little more wet, right? A little more like that, right? Like not like dried or fried, right?
That's right, and they're broiled, so they're really good. I live in Howard County, so there is a place out here called Leland's, a restaurant, and they've got a really good crab cake as well. And you might want to check that out.
See that? This is why I ask smart people, people who curate things know things. You curate information, Mike.
Great, a good word there,
What
Charles.
is what's your official title there? Executive director? Is that still right?
Not anymore. No, I am the director emeritus and slash historian. So I'm actually a private contractor now that works at the museum for the museum. But there's a guy named Sean Hearn who has been with me since I think 2004, and he is the executive director now and doing a great job.
Well, I didn't want to give the wrong time. See, I always get into this with Kevin Byrne. We've been for 25 years. It's always been the big joke between us. I'm like, he's the PR director, but it has some title. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So my title is probably unchanged. I don't know what my title is. You know, Baltimore.
Your title is you're the father who spawned 350 guys who are currently sports commentators on local radio stations and TV. You've done a remarkable job for the city in terms of sports and all the passion you have brought to it. So I'm glad you're still doing your thing and I'm doing my thing, and we'll see how long we go here.
Well, I'm glad one of you appreciates me, Mike Gibbons.
Absolutely, buddy.
Hey, man, take care of yourself. We'll see you down at the museum. Everybody can pull it up. It's BabeRuthMuseum.org. I'm going to pull it up right now before I go out. If you're watching out on the webcast here, as you can see, little Brooks, a little Juan, a little Babe. Nothing wrong with that little Andy Etchebarren in there. Anything you need down at the Babe Ruth Birthplace Museum, you can find out on the website at BabeRuthMuseum.org. And as you said, virtual times, right? Like you do stuff out there, right?
Absolutely. It's the way we're going to keep on going and bring in the story of sports, local sports, to all of our fans. And it's a great mission. It's a great mission.
Appreciate you, Mike. He is Mike Gibbons. He is the emeritus at Babe Ruth Museum, but always involved. Has a great book collection behind him as well. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore positive.